House way too early in the morning to be making this live. It's like 5:36 New York City time, and I'm pretty sure no one's going to hop on. But I'm going to talk about something real quick that I don't think I've ever mentioned before, something brand new. And I was thinking about this because, a lot of people are really sensitive about history. Like, they're very sensitive about history. And usually, historical topics, especially dealing with their race or their religion or whatever, brings up a lot of emotion. And they tend to respond heavily. So this is something I want to say, and I want everyone to realize this because I think it's true as hell. Now, throughout history, a lot of people have been weak to other people, and it's not just about race, because everyone does it. Whether it's countries in Africa, the Middle East, within Europe, every human being, people do it. Every types of human, whatever, even animals do it. Um, when one group runs into another group that they're not cool with, bad things happen. When one group runs into another group they're not cool with, bad things happen. Now, maybe one group has like 1 million members and another group has like 1,000 members. Odds are the one with the more people are going to win, depending on the kind of weapons and stuff they have. But typically, when it's 1,000 of them and 1,000 of them, who's usually going to win? 1,000 of one and 100 of another, like 10 times more. Usually, the one with more numbers are going to win. But now, let's say, what if the numbers are less for the other guy? So let's say one side has like 800 and the other side has like 1,000. Now, the side with 1,000, you probably think have a higher chance of winning. Well, kinda. The difference isn't that big, but it's a difference. But what's the main and most important difference between the two that's going to decide the winner? There's one word that comes to my mind when I think about this, and strategy is important. Strategy is important. But there's one thing that comes to my mind when I think about that, and the word is technology. It's technology. And in order to develop good technology, and even a strategy that comes with the technology, you need science. You need realists in your society. You need them. So, when I was thinking about this, I just realized that a lot of people they don't like science when it comes to the fact that it doesn't really tailor to your feelings and stuff like that. But it's science and technology that saves most people's lives, especially in advanced countries. You probably wouldn't be here if your country didn't have some advanced technology. And I mean that shit. You probably wouldn't even be here. So for example, like I always say this. I'm like, look, we live in a decent civilization, right? We got technology, iPhones, all this stuff, medicine, all that. All of it's based on science. A lot of people, if we were still in the wild, wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have made it to 30, 40 years old. Now, I usually say, if you're diabetic, if you're overweight, and a lot of other different mental illnesses and stuff like that, most of those people wouldn't be here if it weren't for technology and the modern day civilization. You would not be here. Some people whose, let's say, their people or their nation, whatever, didn't have really good technology, maybe they were protected by another nation that had good technology. There's a chance they wouldn't be here if that nation who protected them didn't have good technology. And I'm just saying this because I want people to kind of understand the importance of science and life, because I'm not saying everyone has to be a scientist. And of course, you can believe what you want. But just remember, the societies that put more emphasis on pseudoscience, like whatever the hell you guys are talking about nowadays, I don't know, law of attraction, all this crap. Nations that put more emphasis on pseudoscience rather than real science, they're more likely to get wiped out. Because the nation that's actually focusing on weapons and actually focusing on advancing and actually focusing on strategy, things that are realistic, they can take you out. They can take you out. Like, no one's going to like me saying this, but God never saved anybody ever in life. It was your technology or your terrain. Because terrain has saved a lot of countries a lot of times, including Russia. All that cold and snow, the terrain, like the weather, the natural shit of the area, saved Russia, what, twice? Like, at least twice, World War II and Napoleon. So, like, the ice and all that stuff, it helps a lot. Some, um, some, I don't want to say nations, I don't think whole countries, but there's some places that are surrounded by mountains, and it's much harder to take them over because of the terrain around the city or country. It's hard for them to get taken over, which is something a lot of people don't look at. A lot of people don't look at that. You know what I mean? Some places are easier to take than others because of where they are, where they're situated. And that gives them a great natural advantage, similar to America during World War II, because we have a whole ocean in between us, Europe, Africa. We have a whole entire ocean. So as the war was going on over there, we didn't worry too much over here, except for what Pearl Harbor, which is far away from mainland America. So that's a natural advantage. So technology is something you can develop, but a natural advantage is just something you're just going to have. So if you don't have a natural advantage, you better be damn scientifically advanced. You better be advanced, because without it, you won't be here. And that's what moves people forward. That's what moves nations, unions, and families forward. Is technology. You can have all the religion you want. You can have all the pseudoscience you want. That is not going to help you. One thing they can do is inspire you. But you could be inspired all you want. It doesn't mean, if you don't have any decent technology, it's not going to help you. Like, look at World War II when the Germans invaded Poland, and they were attacking these guys. The Polish were attacking the Germans on horseback. I'm sure they had all the inspiration in the world. God was on their side. But the technology wasn't. They got wiped out. Without science, you're not going to make it. This is really important. I want people to understand that. That's kind of why I get so bugged out. And I mean, I don't get angry anymore because people believe the stupidest things, so I just get used to it. I used to get so bugged out when people talk pseudoscience that it just like gave me a headache. Now I just don't really care because I understand people need that to feel better. It makes life more entertaining. It makes life worth living for a lot of people, pseudoscience things. So whatever, go ahead. But hopefully this person doesn't give up on reality completely, and hopefully this person's belief doesn't get other people to give up on reality completely, because we need science. We need it. Remember, I can't say remember, we're not that old, but remember the Cold War? Do you know how bad America felt when Russia went to space first? When they had the first person? Soviet Union. They had the first person. That's scary as fuck. The first person in orbit, the first space station. All those things are scary as fuck. Why? Because they can attack us, and we wouldn't know how to defend against it. That's scary. It's similar to a bomber flying over your head when you don't have an air force. It's hard to defend against. That's scary. That's very scary. So y'all better stop sleeping on science. I'm telling you right now, because if you want to advance, be part of an advanced society, science is the #1 way to do it. Period. It's not your religion. It's not your, oh, I'm an Aries. None of that bullshit. It's always going to be science that's going to push you forward. Always going to be that push you forward. So you remember that next time you're going through all your pseudoscience mumbo jumbo, because that's not going to help nothing. Maybe it gets you some money. Shit, get your hustle on. Maybe it makes you a little happy. Get your hustle on. But we can't use pseudoscience to turn off from real science, and that's what I definitely don't like. That, like, don't let your pseudoscience cut your brain off from actual science. You know what I mean? So there's some scientists that are religious. At least they claim. They're kind of raised that way, but there's some scientists who are religious. And they don't let their religious minds cut them off from actually learning the reality of things and making experiments and making advances based on reality. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll, like Steph Curry, he knows the science of a three-pointer, but after he shoots the three-pointer with his effort, he thanks God for it. But he still does what he has to do to get the ball in the net. He's not just relying on God or anything like that. He's doing it. And God is the inspiration. But it's not going to go on if he doesn't put the science in, the wrist work, the accuracy, all that stuff. He has to do it. And it's the same thing with everyone else. You got to do it. Let God or pseudoscience be your inspiration. But when it comes down to the science and knowing what's actually going on, you got to look into it. You have to investigate. You got to understand it so you can manipulate reality and use it to your advantage. That's the only way you're going to stay here as a people. Because I tell you right now, what's so ironic to me, it's not even ironic, this happens with everyone. When do you guys know when science advances the most? When does science advance the most? During what type of time? And it happens every time. It always happens. Like, there's a certain time when science just starts advancing like crazy. Like, people are going hard with science and like they're advancing it and blah blah blah. Well, it's wartime. When there's a war, science starts advancing like crazy. So if you get bored, Google all the scientific achievements or scientific advances during World War II, the years even before it and a little bit after, like that 10-year period. So let's take like 37 to 47. Look at all the scientific advances during that time. Because if you didn't advance scientifically, you could die easier. It's that simple. It's really that simple. Now, I'm not saying believe everything you read. Like, people put bullshit articles out there all the time, whether it's scientific or not. But when it comes to what the experiments actually do and actually prove and actually show, those are things to pay attention to. How to pay attention to it? You got to read different sources. You got to go to trustworthy sources. Sources that don't really have a especially not a political source. If anything seems political, I would avoid it at all costs. But look for a source that's actually seeking the truth and doesn't have I forgot the word I'm looking for. But basically, they're not trying to make you think something specifically, especially in a political way. So some things would only post articles that are scientific, but it shows what they're trying to get across. Like, I can say, for example, I can say human beings have been on Earth for like anywhere from 100,000, 200,000 years. Modern day humans, you know. Now, someone could release an article that says, title, evidence that humans have not been here for 200,000 years, to make it look like I'm wrong. And then the article says maybe 200,010, like just a 10-year difference. But with the headline, they're trying to make it look like it's absolutely just wrong. They have a motivation. They have a motive. They're basically trying to make it look like that scientific theory is just absolutely wrong when it's not. They usually do that with the title, but when you read it, you get more of the accurate truth. So be sure to read articles if it has an interesting title, because a lot of people fall for that. Oh, hot orange juice. It's not as good as hot tangerine juice, but and I guess that's it, guys. About to go to the gym, do my thing today, and yeah, I was just thinking about it. If you want to live, technology. And I'm out.